Hello, hi. My name is Dr. Bobby Sura. I'm a consultant clinical psychologist, systemic psychotherapist, and I'm speaking to you from Solihull Wellbeing Clinic here in the West Midlands. Tonight we have a great session with Jules Morgan, who's going to be joining us. The session is about this. So essentially, nutrition, the menopause, how nutritional science can help people get through the menopause with the least hassle and trouble possible. And I'm going to, without further ado, invite Julie in on this conversation. Hi, Julie.
Hi, Bobby. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Thanks for joining in from your office or your home, wherever you are at the moment.
Thanks for having me
You're
on
welcome.
your YouTube channel.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So, Jules, you are a nutritional therapist or a registered nutritionist.
Yes.
And you're also a lifestyle therapist, I think, aren't you?
Yes.
I wouldn't be wrong in saying that, would I?
No. It doesn't being when you say you're a registered nutritionist. Some people think it's all about food, but it's sort of whole body, mind, body, and spirit really. So we look at all life sort of aspects of your life, your environment.
Yes, of course. So it's kind of covering lots of aspects of lifestyle, the body, the mind. I suppose everything gets wrapped up in this, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
And Jules, tell me, how do you become trained to do what you do? You know, a nutritional therapist. Just to kind of set the scene. I suppose it's fairly involved, I would imagine.
It is definitely a lifestyle change. I think you've got to live and breathe it. So my journey started sort of over 9 years ago now, when I think, and how old I was then? I'm trying to think how old I was then. It was quite a while back, but I was suffering with my sort of like 38. I was suffering with my mood swings and just wasn't feeling very good in myself.
Right.
I thought I was suffering really badly with PMS initially, but then I went to the doctor and I was going to see them to see how they could support me. And at that time, as a lot of people may have experienced, that when you go to the doctor, they do suggest maybe sort of antidepressants and things like that. And it's not something I really want. Sort of an area I wanted a sort of path I wanted to try. So I started to search online like people do, Googling sort of, it can't be just me that's feeling like this.
Mm-hmm.
So I then came across a nutritional therapist. I went to see them, and they sort of helped me to sort of understand a little bit more what that was going on. And at that time, they started to explain about me. The signs and symptoms that I had were possibly related with my gut and things like that. So just speaking with a nutritionist and understanding the different things that can actually really sort of affect you, or even your medical history as well.
Mm-hmm.
It was quite an eye-opening experience, really, thinking that I didn't realize how many things in my environment and in my lifestyle and what had happened previously that is affecting me at that particular time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I grew very fascinated that I started to research every day, looking into different sort of natural health methods. And then I decided to become a nutritionist myself, which is it is nice, because when you're learning all of this and the research that you come across really helps you to be involved in this full time, and start to make these small changes in your life to to feel better in more ways than one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I suppose I always worry about thinking we're talking about the menopause. Here is this kind of middle-aged man, promoting a session on menopause. It all doesn't fit very well. But I'm here supported by you, and you know a lot about it. You've learnt about it. You've studied it. I would imagine you've helped lots of people that have been going through the menopause, right?
Well, it's and I will say as well, it's not just women that are suffering with their hormones.
Yeah.
What we will move, what we can, if we get time, have a chat about seed cycling later on. And seed cycling is something that men can do as well.
Okay, that's interesting.
So we can sort of touch on that later. So it's not just women, and I think it helps for men to understand as well when their partner's not feeling too good and they're getting ratty and things like that. So it's a journey that we can, men and women can go on together and support each other and understand what's going on for your hormones.
Yes, of course. Yeah, that's lovely. Okay, so in terms of supporting somebody then through the menopause, let's have a think about a few questions then that I was coming up with and I wanted to ask you. So we hear a lot about menopausal symptoms, Jules. I know hot flushes is one of the kind of ones that everyone thinks of, but and every woman going through the menopause will experience things differently. But we also hear about joint pains. We hear about changes in mood. We read about brain fog, physical fatigue. These sorts of symptoms, sleep disruption,
Yes.
and then also changes in libido and our sort of interest in sex and so on. These things can happen. How can nutrition, the kind of expertise that you bring to the table, Jules, how can it help with some of these symptoms, like, for example, brain fog, energy levels, anxiety? Can food help?
Yes, definitely. More ways than one. Yeah, so touching on sort of energy, brain fog and anxiety, a lot of people will think that a lot of that sort of symptoms are down to, my camera's going a bit funny now, I think. Sorry about that. I think it's
That's fine. We can still hear you.
all of this rain that's happening, maybe it's affecting my internet. So when people think of like their energy and anxiety and things like that and brain fog, they're probably thinking more so that it's going on a lot more here. When I think they forget about down here with their gut. So the gut brain axis is when, so as I explained to some of my clients, if you see something and it scares you, you sometimes have your belly flips. So that shows you that big link between your gut and your brain. So whatever's going on, and if you've got imbalances in your gut, that's actually going to be sending signals to your sort of negative signals to your brain, which can sort of feel like anxiety, depression, OCD, that type of thing. So we want to really focus on our gut health a lot, and with what we eat will affect that a lot.
Right.
So and then in turn, with the gut health being actually affected, it can actually, when we may not be absorbing our nutrients very well, so then that's actually having a knock-on effect on our energy. And then also with sort of some people think, well, suffering from brain fog and forgetfulness and concentration and things like that, they're thinking, oh, I'm getting older, and is it sort of my memory's not as good as it was. Or they sometimes will say, oh, it definitely is perimenopausal, and it can be sort of the hormone changes that you're experiencing, because we've got a lot of receptors in estrogen receptors in our brain, and with obviously estrogen dropping, it can sort of affect our brain health. But some of the things that people may not think about is sort of toxins in the body. So metal toxicity, some people can have these sort of metal fillings, maybe been exposed to sort of metals in the water, which has affected their sort of causing a metal toxicity, and this can add to brain fog, as well as sometimes some people may think that they've got some mold in their house as well, and that also is a toxin as well, and that actually can affect brain health. So when people are suffering with brain health and things like that, maybe looking at doing some of these testing just to sort of eliminate those types of things. Because as I was going to mention, is that sometimes you get to this certain age where you think you're menopausal or perimenopausal, when it could actually be a lot of other drivers that are actually adding to the way. Obviously, you're having them, but hormone changes are going on. But it's good to sort of just look at all. That's why I like coming to see someone like myself. We can look at sort of what's gone on before, your timeline, what you've been exposed to and things like that, and sort of put the pieces together to come up with a root problem and find out what are the other drivers that are adding to your perimenopausal or menopausal symptoms.
Okay. So perimenopause is there's 3 phases, aren't there? There's the perimenopause, the menopause, and then the postmenopause. And
yes. Well, I do say pre-perimenopausal as well. So I think they're just adding more and more on each time. There's all these stages. But I feel that if you can actually start to look after your hormones as early as you can, even getting before you're coming into perimenopausal ages, because you actually balancing your hormones in the earlier years is setting you up in a good sort of place to be when you come to have these big changes, transitions in your hormones.
Yeah. And I suppose, Jules, when we think about estrogen, because the menopause is essentially related to a reduction in the body producing estrogen. Am I right about that?
Yes. Yeah. There is a transition that's going on, but as we are going through our perimenopausal and menopausal stages, especially perimenopausal, you will have these spikes in estrogen. So it's not necessarily you're completely going, you will have a high times of peaks of estrogen, but then low progesterone. So with having that imbalance, it's kind of setting us off in not a good sort of homeostasis sort of area, really.
The homeostasis and the balance between them.
Yes.
And I suppose that those levels are dropping or changing over time as we age biologically.
Yes.
But I guess all of these things are hormones. They're produced by the body. Now, the body needs material to produce this stuff, right? So I would imagine nutrition and our diet is integral to how estrogen is created. I'm a total novice with estrogen, so you tell me.
No, well, men and women, we've both got estrogen in our bodies. But one thing that we're exposed to because some people may say, well, I don't remember my nan and my mum suffering so much with this menopausal symptoms. But today we are exposed to a lot of xenoestrogens, and that is sort of having food in plastics, things that actually mimic estrogen in the body.
Right.
And that's what actually can affect our estrogen levels, like men sort of having sort of more tissue in their sort of breast area. So that can,
that, Jules, I'm afraid, yes.
But it's there's lots of it's very individual for everyone. So even though lots of different people got the same type of symptoms, they would have arrived at that particular point for different reasons. That's why coming to see someone like myself, we can sort of look at the really big picture. We can look at all the signs and symptoms they've got. Is it more gut health we need to support, or where 9 times out of 10 it's their diet. So we can sort of, because some people will think, I feel like I eat a good diet and I exercise well and I'm not losing weight and things like that. So what may be happening is the healthy foods that they're eating at the time aren't suiting them.
Right.
So what we need to do is look at sort of swapping certain things out and finding things that's going to suit them better. So it is sort of very focused around nutrition, but it's also the lifestyle. I mean, if someone's got a lot of stress in their life as well, I will help support them, or maybe refer them to other practitioners who can support them better with their mental health, because that's really key as well.
Yes.
Excuse me.
Yes.
And looking at sleep as well, that's another thing. So there's a lot of things to think about, and for the average person trying to work out what are the main drivers going on for me that's affecting me.
Yes, yes. So in terms of the foods that best support, I don't know whether I could call it a healthy menopause, Jules, but to help us move through, and I appreciate every woman experiences menopause in a different way. There's no one size fits all. But are there certain foods that you would recommend, or is it all based on a tailored sort of diet and an assessment, or are there just certain foods that people, women should be having that would help?
Well, there are certain foods that we focus on when we're thinking about hormone balance, like phytoestrogens, cruciferous vegetables to help with detoxification, lots of vegetables for antioxidants. And also lots of good fats to sort of support satiety, and quality protein as well. So that quality protein is going to keep you fuller for longer, stop you craving those sugary, carby type foods, which when we want to balance our hormones more, we want to think about sort of balancing our blood sugars, so that we're not sort of waking up in the morning, having our cereal, which hasn't got any protein in, and then we have a sugar spike that goes up there, and then sort of about 10 o'clock drop down there, and then it's like, where's the biscuits? So it's sort of balancing your blood sugars with good quality protein, good fats, and lots of vegetables, which have got a lot of phytonutrients in, especially the phytoestrogens like flax seeds, legumes, them type of things, which what they do is they are like estrogen type foods, and they actually sort of fit into the cell receptors and help balance our estrogen levels better. So whether we're a little bit low in estrogen or a bit too high in estrogen, they can sort of help support that balance, the estrogenic foods.
So that's great. That there would be a real support to the body and to the mind that would help. Now, you mentioned earlier on seed cycling, and you were saying that this is applicable to men and women. Now, I understand seed cycling can help with hormone balance. So do you want to tell me a bit about seed cycling? I've never heard of it before, Jules.
Yes, it's like, I think I've known about it for quite a while now. So I kind of sometimes think that, people and things they've used before for quite a while. And I think people may know about it, but then when I'm having these different talks or talking to clients, they're like, "Oh, what's this seed cycling?" And then when I tell them about it and how simple it actually is, they think, "Oh, wow, that seems quite interesting," and it's something quite easy and cheap that most people can do. So what it actually is having a tablespoon full of certain seeds, say the first half of a lady's cycle. So from day one, say, for example, so it's 28-day cycle. So from day 1 to day 14, a tablespoonful of sunflower seeds and a tablespoonful of linseed, which will, that's when it's milled, it's flaxseed. It can be a bit confusing for people, they're not quite sure it's called linseed. But taking a tablespoon of each of those, and if you can, sort of freshly milling those each day, or maybe the night before, and keep it in a glass jar in the fridge, and then have it the next day in like a smoothie, some plant-based milk and a banana. But what that does, that first half of the cycle with them types of seed, it's helping balance your estrogen levels, because your estrogen is gradually sort of rising in the first 14 days as it comes up to ovulation. And then the second part of the 14 days, you would have sesame seeds and sunflower seeds. And what that is helping support is your progesterone levels. So after ovulation and the egg's been released, your progesterone levels will start to rise, and sort of that will support that area. So with sort of men as well, supporting their estrogen levels, they can do the same sort of thing, and they could sort of follow it like on the moon cycle, like a woman who's not having menses anymore, postmenopausal. She would sort of follow the moon cycle, and when there's a full moon, start on day 1 and follow it that way. So then she would know where she is with her seed cycling.
Right.
But the benefits of having these seeds is they've got so many vitamins and minerals in. They've not only got protein in, they've got fibre in, they've got B vitamins in, magnesium, selenium, zinc, calcium. They have got quite a good nutritional content. So it's a bonus having something that's quick and easy to have, because you can even just mill the seeds and put them into some coconut milk. I think tastes nice, and you can just drink that in the morning. But sort of having that, you're balanced. So as I said, you're balancing your hormones, and you're getting a lot of this vitamins and minerals just packed in one little drink.
Right. And it sounds, I mean, that idea of seeds in coconut milk sounds pretty nice, actually.
It does taste very nice. What I do every day is I'll sort of mill my seeds in the morning, and I'll take them into work with me. So with just some coconut milk.
Okay.
But you can have almond milk or some of the other plant-based ones. Because try to avoid the cow's dairy if you can, because that casein is one of the top inflammatory foods. So if you can, try to start swapping to a non-dairy, trial them. I mean, over these years, I've been trialing different brands and different ones and finding out which ones I like the most. But then you can pop a banana in there. You could put some berries in there as well. And it's a really nice, tasty smoothie, whereas you're having something with the seeds as well.
Sounds lovely.
Yeah.
So these are some of the kind of nutritional ways in which we can sort of manage menopause and hormone balance and the homeostasis you were talking about, Jules. I was also thinking about the lifestyle changes, and what would sort of help with sleep, what would help with mood. And obviously, being a psychologist, I could probably think a little bit about that too. But what have you found when you've recommended things to your clients, and what's helped them, in terms of lifestyle changes?
So I would say that sleep has to be a priority. I have heard people say over time, which I used to laugh about before and thought that maybe it was a thing, where they say, I'll sleep when I'm dead.
Say that. Yeah.
And it's like, I think back years ago when I was younger, I think then it used to be, I could see they may have a point, because we only live once and we want to make the most of it. So, but as I have got into this profession, sleep is so important. It's when our body is repairing, and if we don't get enough sleep, then the next day we can be more stressed. So it's raising our cortisol levels, and with raising our cortisol levels, our fight or flight hormone, we tend to want to store fat around the middle.
Right.
So people are sort of going down the gym, or they're eating a really healthy diet, but they're sort of like the weight's not coming off, but then they're not really focusing on the sleep that they're having. So that's spiking their cortisol levels. That's one thing with getting fat around the middle, not sleeping well. But also, if you've noticed that whenever you don't sleep very well, you're like, oh, I'm just really hungry all the time, because it's sort of affecting our leptin hormone, which is our satiety hormone. So so it's activating our ghrelin hormone more, wanting to eat more, our hunger hormones, to actually sort of give us energy. So we're focusing on sleep. You want to sort of try and get a regular bedtime, really. I mean, it sounds a bit boring sometimes, where you've got to go to bed at a certain time and get up at a certain time. But I understand that sometimes life gets in the way. But if you can get into that habit more of going to bed at a set time, and a good time on, not too late, like near 12 o'clock, and then getting up at a good set time as well, that helps sort of regulate our circadian rhythm.
Yes.
Because when that's out of sync, that's obviously our body won't have gone through all the proper sleep cycles when we're asleep. Enough REM and deep sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So getting a regular bedtime, part of the sleep hygiene, and not being on a computer, any sort of blue light devices 1 or 2 hours before bed, because that light is the blue light is actually sort of triggering our pineal gland, thinking that it's actually daylight when it's not.
Right.
So you can get those blue light blocking glasses. They're not the most trendiest fashion item to have, but
Yeah.
I'm sure when you're at home on your own or with your family, nobody's looking at you. So they're a really good thing. But also getting out first thing in the morning. I mean, some people who have their dogs that they take walking, that's a really good thing, because first thing in the morning, take the dog out to go to the toilet. And that light into your eyes first thing in the morning, it's like signaling your body clock has supporting circadian rhythm. It's like it's daylight now. So that sort of 8 hours after that, you can start winding down and coming away from those light devices to help the production of melatonin, the sleep hormone, to be able to sleep well, really. So so that's concentrate on your sleep. If you are having problems with your sleep, it's trying to look at what sort of things can be sort of affecting you. Maybe there might be certain deficiencies with sort of magnesium and things like that, so we can support that. And also, as we've touched on, gut health as well. If your gut health, most of your serotonin actually gets created in the gut. So if your gut health isn't well, you are not helping with the production of serotonin, which is the precursor to melatonin, your sleep hormone. So all of these things are quite heavily linked in sort of looking at, and I found that in my journey, the gut healing that I've had for myself, I do sleep better now, whereas I found before I can be having trouble getting off to sleep, and then I'll be waking up too early in the morning, and then when I do wake up, I think I don't really feel rested. Have I actually been asleep? So there's a lot of
with me, Jules, the morning wake up is really regular, and so regular that I get up before, on the dot, when the alarm would go off. But it's the other side, getting to bed at the same time. Good. And then, of course, there's things like sleep hygiene and sort of gradually settling to bed, and reading, I find, always helps, a bit of reading before bed, these kind of things. But how interesting that serotonin, melatonin, these things are linked, and serotonin we know is very implicated in terms of mood and emotional well-being, and it's generated in the gut. I didn't realize, but obviously it would be, because where's it going to come from? It's what we put into our body, and where does it go? It goes into our stomach. So when you start thinking about it, it's actually quite interesting, isn't it? One of the things then, Jules, around HRT, now hormone replacement therapy, I know it's a can of worms. It's become controversial. People say all sorts of things about it, but I know the medical websites, the NHS and so on, they all sort of talk down side effects. They talk about how it can be helpful, that people should consider it. It could be part of a package of care. Where do we start with HRT, Jules? What's your take on it?
Yes, it can be a minefield. But initially, where I would say, people, it's definitely a discussion for your doctor, for you, and to go and see your doctor and have that discussion with them as to what HRT and would it be suitable for you. However, at the same time, I would say it's good coming to see someone like myself or a functional medicine practitioner, because, as I mentioned before, there can be a lot of other drivers or things where we are at the time, that are actually exacerbating those perimenopausal, menopausal symptoms. So working with someone like myself or a functional medicine practitioner, we can help it's good to start with the diet and lifestyle and lifestyle medicine, because we can actually help educate our clients in showing them what certain things could be adding to the way they're feeling, and also they've got someone to talk to, and then if we need to refer them to other practitioners for more support. So at least then you're starting to exhaust the sort of the holistic side of things initially, to find out what support you have to start doing these lifestyle changes.
Yes.
And then also we can look at sort of family history as well. What could be some of the risks of going on HRT, and currently where their health is at this time now, and but actually having, because when you do go and see the doctor, you've got 10 minutes and that's it. You're like you know, you haven't. It's unfortunate they haven't got the time, the money to be able to sit down. Obviously, they're looking at the risks of how much HRT you should have and which ones you should have. But in talking to sort of a therapist like myself, at least we've got more time to look at the bigger picture in supporting you alongside with your doctor to find the right answer for you.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of things like some people might not be their detoxification pathways might not be working as well, so they're not sort of excreting these excess hormones, which are leading to things like estrogen dominance, which can lead to later on much serious things like estrogen cancers, breast cancer, ovarian cancer, that type of thing. So in doing this support for clients is really going to help them in the long term.
Yes.
And obviously we can work alongside with their doctor together and in helping support them make the right answer, what the best decision is for them.
Yes. Okay, that's fantastic. And in terms of the medical side of it, Jules, when you sort of see somebody and you're working out what they need from in terms of nutrition, do you get involved with blood tests and things like that? I mean, how do you know where people are deficient and what they need? I mean, it might sound like a basic question, but
no, it's not a basic question at all. Luckily, in my field and functional medicine, we have got an array of tests, at our disposal. There's some testing that the doctors can do. They can look at some of your hormones and things like that. But sometimes I know they can be limited sometimes with what they're testing, whereas on the functional medicine side, we can do Dutch testing, which looks at all hormones. It also looks at cortisol levels as well, because that's obviously going to be affecting your testosterone, your progesterone levels and things like that. So there's a lot of testing that we have. Also, when we're looking at gut health, which is really, really crucial for the metabolism of your hormones, we can do stool testing as well, which is more comprehensive than the NHS.
Okay. That's lovely. I was just checking. Sorry, that was the feed from Facebook. I was just checking to see whether there were some questions, because somebody texted me and said, look at the questions, and I can't find them. So I really do apologize. It just sounds as though somebody's asking something, but hopefully we've covered things, Jules. Is there anything else that you would like to say? We're in the last sort of few minutes now. Just wrapping up, is there anything else that you feel hasn't been spoken about, or I've not asked you, that people might be interested in terms of the menopause and nutrition, lifestyle? You've covered a great deal, to be honest.
Sorry?
You've covered a great deal, to be honest,
Well, I mean, if anybody has any questions and they want to contact yourself directly or myself at Red Berry Nutrition, then I'm more than happy to sort of answer their questions. And also, if any client is unsure about coming to see someone like myself or a functional medicine practitioner and they want to know how we work, then, I'm more than happy to arrange a call and we can chat over any sort of worries they have or something they're not quite sure about. But there's that's why so my background is in IT, and I've done IT for over 20 years, and I did really enjoy it.
Uh-huh.
But since I'm going on my own health journey and learning about this, about nutrition and like this lifestyle,
Yeah.
and it's become a lifestyle. You're every moment I'm reading something about health and things like that, but it's so powerful, and I've seen the changes in myself in what I eat and how I feel and how my energy is and how my mood is.
Yeah.
It absolutely, making these step changes, small steps, getting there is absolutely so powerful in supporting your gut health, which is the center of your body, really.
Right. Right. Lovely. So I've managed to find those questions,
Okay.
Julie. Um, so somebody's saying, I've often heard people experience hot flushes during menopausal periods, symptoms. Could you explain what this typically means? Hot flushes. I suppose you just get hot, don't you, and feel very overheated. Isn't that
So
what?
they're asking the question, what happens with a
Yeah,
hot flush?
I
Why
think
they?
someone younger who perhaps has probably never experienced hot flushes. But what does that actually mean for someone that's not had it before?
Well, the hot flushes, they can happen different times for different people, really. Some people can experience them where they could be just sitting here like, well, a little bit similar to me earlier when I was panicking that I couldn't get online, where maybe there's a stressful moment and they have this heat. All of a sudden, their body feels like they're just overheating
Yeah,
and really perspiring quite a lot as well. So
right.
it can just come on, or for no other reason at all. But a lot of times, I find that people have these hot flushes is when they're quite close to their sort of close to when is it close to the ovulation. They
Uh-huh.
sort of they can feel quite, so that the hormone changes in their body
Yeah.
they can wake up sweating or having their hot sweats at night. But a lot of things can be driving that. There's a lot of looking into the health of your vascular system. So say that as we're aging, some of our arteries that are maybe not in the best health and getting sort of clogged with plaque, our blood's not being able to pump around the body as well.
Mhm.
So that can be an added driver to the hot flushes.
Yeah.
But I find that with and some people report that if they don't drink much wine anymore, because every time they do have a glass of alcohol, they find they're sweating a lot in the night.
Nice.
So because obviously with alcohol, that actually does affect your estrogen as well, and that can drive that higher and cause you to exacerbate the hot flushes.
Okay. Okay. And the other question is from somebody called Harishta up in the Northwest, funnily enough. And she's just asking you, you were talking about seeds and coconut milk and so on, or oat milk or lactose free milk, whatever you were saying.
Yeah.
She was just asking what's the difference between that and just mixing them with water. I suppose it's just taste, isn't it?
It is a taste preference. I
Yeah.
find that if you don't mind having them in water, you can just have them in water. I find that because it's a little bit like, when you have granola or something like that, you'll
Yeah.
probably add it in milk, won't you? And it's that
Cool.
nice taste of the milk and the nuts,
Yeah.
banana. So I think it's just mainly just a
Taste.
tasting.
Cool.
And
Yeah.
say if you are sort of worried about weight and things like that, and I would probably steer more for coconut milk and almond rather than oat milk, because obviously that's more of a carbohydrate
I
type
see.
of milk. So if you're wanting to balance your sugars more and help with support weight loss, then
Yes.
you want to have things that are more sort of quality protein and good fats rather than
Okay.
carbohydrates being the oat milk.
Okay. So the milks you recommend are
Almond,
almond.
coconut milk, nut milk, or almond, nut milk or coconut milk.
Okay.
Um,
There's so
and
many misconceptions, aren't there? I just have this sort of um, thought that coconut milk would be very high calorie, but it's not. It's pretty good.
Well, you can actually get the. I think it's really it's individual again.
Hmm.
So, say when you go to see your doctor and you're saying to your doctor, "I want to use coconut oil," they're saying, "Oh, you need to stay away from that because it's your cholesterol's are high
Yes,
and stay away from the eggs and things like that." It is about a balance and
yes,
about looking at that individual and finding what are the drivers to their higher cholesterol,
yeah.
and supporting that. But I've forgotten what I was going to say now.
Well,
but
yeah, the
but
calorie levels of coconut milk and so on. So it's about individually looking at somebody, isn't it? And
yeah,
it's
that's
right.
why
Yeah,
I say that it's because some people say, "Oh, can you recommend this or recommend that?" And sometimes it's knowing more of the bigger picture of what
yeah,
that individual needs most support. Like if that person does want to lose weight, then maybe we would sort of think of something like almond. But then I
yeah.
was going to say coconut milk, Rude Health organic one, is actually rice or coconut and water. So that one hasn't got as much coconut in, so that I would imagine that's less fat. And
Okay,
then I was going to say I sometimes buy organic soya milk, but I
okay,
tend to always buy organic if I can because of
yeah.
reducing my toxic load. And obviously, you don't want something that's GM, genetically modified, soya, because that would be very damaging.
Okay, okay. It's a minefield, isn't it? I think without having a personalized consultation and you assessing and advising, you just get lost in all the information. So what I
Yeah,
would recommend, Jules, is, as you say, you do offer sessions at Solihull Wellbeing Clinic. Your organization is Redberry Nutrition, isn't it? And just get in touch with us if you'd like to speak with Jules and have more tailored conversations, because this is a very generic and general conversation. But Jules, I wanted to say a great big thank you to you for taking time out on an evening like this to talk and share some of your knowledge. And I know that you've got a lot of other specialisms and skills, and you could talk about nutrition in different guises and different forms. So perhaps we can talk about some other subject some other
yeah,
time. But thank you very much for being
no, that,
online.
thank you very much. And if there's any particular topic that people would like me to cover, then I can come online again with yourself. I've enjoyed this evening
Yeah,
talking about the menopause,
yeah.
and so if anybody's got any other questions or certain topics, then I'm happy to come back online and
I would
have
love
a
to have
chat to
you.
you.
Would love to have you back. Thank you very much,
Thank
Jules.
you.
Yeah, thank you very much. So, in terms of tonight's live stream, well, we're coming to a close now. Look on our YouTube, Facebook channels. We've had various kinds of topics on hijama cupping. We've had another session on menopause. We've had sessions on the autism spectrum. We've talked about relaxation and sophrology as an approach, and women's empowerment, and there's a lot of things on there. And we also have a free taster session. It's a little plug for Rosina, who's our drama therapist and counsellor. She's running a free taster session as a sort of marker for the recent Women's Independence Day that we had. And there's a Saturday, it's later on, I think, this month. It's free. It's a couple of hours. You can come into the clinic, have some time in a group-based setting with a therapist facilitating. It's going to be fun, drama-based activities and so on. So you're very, very welcome to join that. And if we can be of any other help, you've got our email, our phone number, website, everything's there. But we hope it's been useful, and we'll keep coming on from time to time to share more with you. So tonight has been all about Jules and nutrition and the menopause. Thank you for tuning in.